Welcome to this week's Ask Charlie. I am making a birthday cake and I thought that we could make it together for this week's how-to video. So the first thing that I do when I am baking a cake is prepare my tins. So I've taken out the base, I've got a pencil and I am just going to quickly draw around the base in a circle and then I'm going to cut it out and get two on here together like that. So always important when you are making a cake to line your tins. There's nothing worse than going to that effort and then it getting stuck and you can't get it out. So we will just cut out our circles quickly. Another option, if you don't want to cut out circles of greaseproof paper, is to use something like, I think I've got one. This is an old bit of magic liner, or Bako glide is also known as, and you could cut this to the shape of your cake tins. I've got some pre-cut for some cake tins, not for all of them and not for this size ones, so I'm just using greaseproof paper, but that is another great option to line your tins. So those are prepared and those are ready for buttering, because the next thing we're going to do is butter them. I'm using 170 grams of softened unsalted butter, and then I shall use the paper that's around the butter to grease my tins. That's almost enough, a little more, perfect. And then that leftover butter I shall just pop on a plate there, put that out of the way, and then using this I can just quickly grease around the edges, the sides, that is the most important bit. I'm just going to grease them. You can grease and flour them as well, but actually for this cake I'm just going to grease them because I'm going to ice the cake all the way around, so it doesn't need to be perfect. If I wanted it to be perfect, I would grease and flour. And then just put those in there, and then let's make the cake batter. So I've got my butter in here and I'm going to cream my butter and my sugar together. It is 170 grams of caster sugar. I'm using golden caster. I'm using my Kenwood and the K beater, but you can do this by hand or use whatever, whether you've got a KitchenAid or a Magimix, but I love my Kenwood. I've creamed my butter and sugar together. I have got my eggs ready from our hens, which is so lovely to be baking with our own eggs. And I'm just going to get my flour ready. So it's 170 grams of self-raising flour. I'm just going to weigh it out before I add in the eggs. This is what I would normally do when the Kenwood's on, but I can't talk to you when it's making that noise, so just get that weighed out. And then 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Add that in. So I've got my dry ingredients there ready. And I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla into my creamed butter and sugar. So that is in there. And now it's time to add in the eggs. I'm going with my larger eggs. Not sure which hen this one is, but they are a really good size. Always a good idea to crack your eggs into a bowl first before adding them straight in. In fact, that one is very lucky, I don't know if you can see, double yolker, which is really exciting, but I'm going to treat that as a single yolker because the yolks are slightly smaller, and I'm just going to turn it on and just whisk those eggs through one at a time. add in, that one is just a normal single yolk eggs. I find hens often lay double yolk eggs when they first start laying. So we'll just do the next egg, mix that through. If it starts to curdle, you can always add in a little bit of your flour to stop it curdling, but for this it doesn't really matter too much. But that is a really good hack. If your cake batter is curdling, you can just spoon in a little bit of your flour, and then in goes the third egg. Now it's time to add in my flour and baking powder. Always a good idea as well to check that your baking powder is in date so you get a good rise. I find that they come in quite big pots. You don't necessarily use very much, teaspoon here and there, and easily you can be caught out and it goes out of date. This is March 2024, so it's fine. But if your cake doesn't rise, just check the date on your baking powder, make sure it's in date. Now my batter is quite thick, so I'm going to add a little bit of milk to it. You can use some lukewarm water if you don't want to add in milk. This is room temperature milk, so just take the chill off it, and I'm adding in 2 tablespoons to start with. I'm sorry, there's little feet pitter-pattering around. It's Tess. She's really unsettled today. She's just sort of at my feet walking backwards and forwards around. Aren't you? You are. You are. You're not settling. No. So just mix that milk through, and then just see whether you need to add a little bit more. You want it to be that sort of consistency. That is perfect. That's what we want for our cake. So, the postman waving at me. And the dogs have just spotted the postman and now they're barking at him. Right, then divide your cake mix between your 2 tins. Always a good idea as well, just to run through in your head all the ingredients. Have I put in the sugar? Have I put in the baking powder? Have I put in the vanilla? Just always run through, check your recipe. And then just spread out your batter. So I just use the back of the spoon and just gently push it into the sides. Now, preheat your oven. I should have said that at the beginning. Preheat your oven, and if you're using an electric oven, I am using my AGA, so I am not preheating mine. I'm going to use the baking oven. So if you're using an electric oven, fan oven at 180 in the centre of the oven for 25 to 35 minutes. If you are using an electric oven, I would say probably closer to the 25-minute mark. I am using my baking oven of my AGA, and I'm just going to lift up this so it's in the middle, and then I'm just going to slide those in. Make sure you set a timer so you know when to check them. I always set a timer for if I'm using my AGA for about 15 minutes just to check them. I might swap them around, and then for AGA users, after about 15 minutes, I'll slide my plain cold sheet in on the top. I will, if I need it. I might not necessarily need it, but after about 15 minutes, I'll be able to gauge whether I need it or not. This reflects the heat. So an AGA cooks from the bottom, the top, and the sides. There is heat all around, so it's a different way of cooking. And if you put the plain cold sheet in, and that's why it's called cold, because it only works effectively when it is cold, room temperature cold. You slide it in above, not too close to the top of the cakes because you want there to be a little bit of space. Slide it in right at the top of the AGA, and it deflects the heat back up, and it stops things burning or browning too much on top. So it's really, really clever. I love cooking cakes in the AGA because there's something about them. They just are delicious. I find my electric module just dries out the cake too much, and it doesn't taste as moist and as delicious as cooking cakes in the AGA. I think they're just the best. I saw something online the other day, somebody turned their AGA on to cook a lemon drizzle cake for a village show. She was entering it into a competition. She said, I put my AGA on specifically for that reason, because they're second to none for cake baking. I am a huge fan. They are very expensive to run at the moment with the cost of everything going up. So whether ours will stay on now for the winter, I don't know. But we had a really busy weekend, lots of cooking, lots going on. And so I have put the AGA on, but it may just be on for a few days. I don't know. Something exciting that I have been working on, it's not quite ready yet, but it will be soon. All of my cakes and biscuit recipes are here for me to proofread and to go through, and then I'm creating a booklet of cakes and biscuits that will be available to buy on my website. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because I love baking, I love sweet treats, and I have got a lot of recipes that will be great to share with you. There's a plane going overhead if you wonder what that noise is. Between Tess walking around in circles and planes and things, it's a little bit noisy in the kitchen today. I'm sorry about that, but I need to stop waffling, set a timer, and I will be back with you when the cakes are baked. The timer is about to go off any moment. There. Alexa, stop. So let's have a look at my cakes. They've had 30 minutes. I put the plain cold sheet in for about 5 minutes. I'm going to take a clean skewer and pop it into the middle. And if your skewer comes out clean, you know that your cake is cooked. Always put it in the middle, because that is the bit that will cook the least. If you put it in the side, it's not going to tell you whether the centre's cooked. You want to make sure it's cooked all the way through. I am happy with that. So I am just going to leave these to cool for about 5 minutes or so before we turn them out. Too hot to handle at the moment, so I'm just going to leave them there. It's a great thing about having a Granite Works top. I can just pop them straight out onto here, which is excellent. I will get my my rack. I can turn them out onto here when they've cooled a little bit. While they are cooling down on the side, I've got a sharp knife, and I'm just going to very carefully poke it and just take the cake away from the side. So that will make it easier to turn out, and you won't get any bits of cake left on the side either. So I just spin my cake tin round with a sharp knife. A pudding bowl. Pop the pudding bowl on your surface, and then that way you're not going to burn yourself with the side, the rim, the cake rim. That's what I'm trying to say, like so. And then carefully lift that off and place that on and flip it over like so, and then lift that off. That is the best way to do it. And then using your sharp knife, you can just lift up your paper and peel it off carefully, like so. And then do exactly the same with the other one. While I was peeling the paper off, I remembered something from years ago. It must be 13 years ago. We had a wonderful Italian au pair called Barbara living with us, and she was amazing. It was just when I had Coco and Archie, and she came literally the day we came home from hospital with Coco. Barbara came into our lives, and we're still in touch with Barbara. She's the most wonderful person. Anyway, it was her birthday and I made her a birthday cake, and I was so pleased with myself because Coco wasn't the happiest baby in the world. She had really bad reflux and screamed an awful lot, and Barbara was such an angel with her, and she was so kind and lovely. Anyway, I really wanted to make Barbara this cake, and I was pretty overtired, pretty frazzled mummy, very frazzled. And anyway, we went to slice Barbara's birthday cake, and you couldn't get the knife through. And suddenly it dawned on me what I had done. I hadn't taken the paper out. I just iced it over. And anyway, every time I peel off a bit of paper when I'd made a cake, I remember back to those early days of being a frazzled mummy, and yeah, just that horror of trying to slice a cake, not being able to. Anyway, it's a much better way to pop your tin, your loose bottom tin, onto a bowl rather than burning yourself. I'm going to leave my cakes to cool here completely before icing them. You don't want to ice a cake when it's warm because icing will just melt and run off and it will cause havoc. So make sure your cake is fully cooled before you attempt to ice it. While my cake is cooling, we're going to make the icing. Now, we as a family love a simple sponge with chocolate icing, and I just don't think you can beat it personally. I love a chocolate cake. Sometimes I find it a little bit rich and a little bit too much, whereas this is just, I think, the perfect balance. But each to their own. It's just my personal preference, and it's what the children ask for as well. So we have this bit of a thing when it comes to birthdays in our family, particularly when they were younger. I would say, what type of cake would you like? So I'm putting 60 grams of softened butter into there, and actually that is spot on, so that was quite lucky. I would say, what kind of cake would you like? And I remember one year Coco said that she wanted an Elsa cake from Frozen, and I did tractors and fire engines and all sorts of things. So the children used to go to bed at like 6:45. I would have baked the cake before and had that all ready, and then I would spend all evening, sometimes until the early hours of the morning, creating their cake for the party the following day. And I had so much fun. And at the end of this video, I will share some pictures of previous birthday cakes. Now remember that they are not photographed beautifully, because in those days I didn't create any content. I was just a full-time mummy, and so they're just literally snaps on you know, a camera or phone or whatever, not beautifully styled, but I had a lot of fun creating amazing cakes for the children when they were little. So I've just added in 250 grams of icing sugar, and now I'm going to add in 24 grams of cocoa powder, and literally just add it all in. There we are. A pinch, and a good pinch, oh, I've already got the salt, a good pinch of sea salt. Adding in salt to chocolate just takes that sort of sickly sweetness edge off, and does an excellent job. Now I'm going to just add in a little bit of warm water So I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons. And I'm just popping it over the top just to try and sort of dampen that down. I may need to add in a little bit more water, but you can't take it away once you've added it in. So slowly, slowly. And I'm very slowly turning my Kenwood on. If I turn it on too quickly, I'm going to get a face full of icing sugar and cocoa powder, which I don't want. So just very slowly. And then when it starts to mix through, you can turn up the speed a little bit. And voila, it is as simple as that. Homemade icing. Now, if you want to cheat and you don't want to make your own icing, Betty Crocker's does a great alternative, which works really well. So sometimes we can cut corners, but I wanted to show you a really simple, fail-safe icing. I think it's really important to do it with a blender or with a whisk or something. It makes it so much easier. But you can do it by hand. You just get slightly sore arm from all the whisking, but that works so well. And it's really, really delicious. You can double the recipe as well if you want to make more. I don't want to have too much icing on my cake, and you'll see why in a minute, but that is a good amount. Now place one half of your cool cake onto a plate. Now you can, as I mentioned, make your cake in advance, and you can freeze sponge cake. And I would recommend, if you are doing an elaborate cake, to actually start icing it from frozen, because otherwise you get a lot of cake crumbs crumbling off. And actually, if you ice a cake from frozen the day before you're planning on eating it, it works really well. Trust me, it was a great tip I learned from a local cake maker. I'm just putting a thin layer of icing in there, and then let's just get the other half and carefully place it on top like that. And then I find using like a metal spatula works really well for icing, or a knife. And I'm just going to pop a thin layer of icing over the top and around the sides. I've just roughly iced this cake. This is why I wanted to share this with you, because this is a really quick birthday cake that I think is just a winner, and actually I have made quite a few times because it just goes down well, but also it doesn't take loads of time. So if you're in a hurry, you can just pretty quickly whip one of these up. Now have just got a tissue here, and I wanted to show you how, if you get a little bit of icing on your plate, you can just wipe it off with a tissue just to tidy up the sides. Now actually with this cake it doesn't matter because we're going to cover that bit up, but I just wanted to share with you a really good hack for cleaning your cake stand. That is the word I'm looking for, if you need to. So that is a really good way to do it. Now before your icing sets, decorate it before it goes hard. And if the weather's quite cold, it will go hard quicker than you think. So I have just got a mixture of white and chocolate fingers, which I'm going to decorate around the edge of my cake, and that's why it doesn't matter if you haven't perfectly iced it and you've got mess on the cake stand. It doesn't matter at all. And I'm just literally going to stick my chocolate fingers around the side. You can make a third layer if you want when you make your cake batter to make it slightly taller. And I think particularly, I'm putting that one in the wrong place, if you've got lots of children coming, then it's a good idea to, you know, you can make a few extra layers of cake, which is always fun as well. Sometimes I have made a hole in the middle of the cake by using a glass. Literally, I'll show you. You can just pop a glass in the middle, rotate it round, and then pull out some sponge, and then you've got a hole in the middle of your cake which you can fill with sweets, which is a really, really fun way as well. When you cut the cake, you have a whole load of sweets that fall out, which children love, but I'm not doing that for today's cake. I've got all of my fingers around, and I've got this rather fun blue stripe ribbon. I keep all ribbons, and I'm not even going to put a bow. It's just easier to use a pin, and I'm literally just going to poke that through. We'll remember to take it out when I serve it, but that is just easier than trying to even tie a bow. And then I've got some chocolate M&Ms, which I am going to pour over the top. And that just makes it look colourful and fun. And let's just add a few more on. We don't want it to look like we're skimping with M&Ms. And really, you know, whatever you want to add on or not add on, you could add sweets, whatever. And if you made a hole, then I would add some M&Ms into my hole, which is quite fun. So there we are, a really, really quick, easy, simple birthday cake that looks lovely, and it looks like you've put lots of time and lots of care and attention into it, but actually we've just decorated it with some chocolate fingers and poured some M&Ms over the top and popped a ribbon around it, and voila, it's done. And it looks like you've put, you know, time and thought and effort into it, which I think is always really appreciated. And I think you can't beat a homemade cake. And then obviously some candles on the top to decorate it. So we have got a 15-year-old in the house, so I have just got number candles and then some other candles to go on to decorate it. Now I'm going to keep this somewhere cool. Either pop it in the fridge if the weather's quite warm, or pop it somewhere cool until you are ready to serve. And also this is really easy to cover with either, you know, like a netting thing, one of these. I think these, one of these, or some cling film, and you would be absolutely fine. You know, keep your cake, you know, any flies or anything off your cake until you are ready to serve and enjoy. So I hope that has inspired you to get creative in the kitchen, to think about birthday cakes, and it's a great recipe. So make sure that you head over to my website and you can download it, you can print it off, you can keep it, and keep your eyes peeled as well for my biscuit and cake recipes that will be coming for you soon, available on the shop section of my website. And I will see you on Friday with a new vlog, and in the meantime I'm sending love and have a good week.